Today, we're jumping right into a conflict that's been on a razor's edge for decades. We're going to deconstruct the high-stakes game of military brinkmanship between the US and Iran. To do that, we'll look at a real-world flashpoint and then walk through a chillingly plausible scenario of what could happen next. All right, let's dive in.
So, picture this. The date is June 22nd, 2025. The mission's codename? Operation Midnight Hammer. Right now, under the cover of total darkness, a high-risk American military op is unfolding over Iran. And this isn't just some random strike. Nope. This is the culmination of years and years of simmering tension finally boiling over.
And when I say years, I am not kidding. The actual planning for this specific mission, the intense analysis of its main target, had been going on for over a decade and a half. This was an operation born from some serious, long-term study by the U.S. Defense Threat Reduction Agency. At the very heart of this operation is this number, 30,000 pounds. That's the weight of the GBU-57, also known as the Massive Ordnance Penetrator. It's a bunker-buster bomb with one purpose and one purpose only, to obliterate the most heavily fortified, deepest underground targets anywhere on the planet. So how do you deliver something that massive? Well, with B-2 stealth bombers, flying an incredible 37-hour round trip, all the way from their base in Missouri. Their targets are Iran's most secret, most protected nuclear sites. But the big question is, how on earth did we get to this point? To understand the future, we have to look back. Let's rewind the clock to a real-world event that, honestly, changed the entire game. The 2020 assassination of one of Iran's most powerful military leaders, General Qasem Soleimani. This single act set a dangerous, brand-new precedent. So here's how it went down. On January 3rd, 2020, a U.S. drone strike kills Soleimani near the Baghdad airport. The Pentagon's justification, they claimed he was planning imminent attacks on Americans. While just 5 days later, Iran hit back, launching a barrage of ballistic missiles at a U.S. airbase in Iraq. This was a direct, state-on-state military fight. Back in the U.S., the reaction was, well, it was messy. You had total division. On one side, you had Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, who called Soleimani a master terrorist. But on the other, you had House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who called the strike provocative and disproportionate. It perfectly captured just how polarized the country was. And, the story didn't end with that missile strike, not by a long shot. The assassination kicked off this long shadow war of retaliation. We're talking ongoing Iranian plots targeting former U.S. officials, cyber attacks, and even FBI charges against operatives trying to set up attacks on American soil. The conflict just went underground, but it never, ever stopped. The other absolutely critical piece of this puzzle is the total collapse of diplomacy, the slow and then very rapid breakdown of the big international agreement that was supposed to keep Iran's nuclear ambitions in check. Okay, so a real quick refresher on the lingo. The JCPOA, you've probably heard it called the Iran nuclear deal, was this huge agreement back in 2015. Put simply, Iran agreed to limit its nuclear program, and in return, all these crippling international economic sanctions were lifted. But then 2018 happened, and everything got thrown out the window. The United States just walked away from the deal, unilaterally. And they slammed those sanctions right back on, calling the policy maximum pressure. This basically cut Iran off from all the economic benefits it was supposed to get for playing by the rules. So what did Iran do? Well, pretty much exactly what you'd expect. It floored the accelerator on its nuclear program. By May of 2025, in our scenario, it had stockpiled a huge amount of uranium enriched to 60% purity, which is just a tiny technical step away from weapons grade, enough for several bombs. And after getting called out by the international nuclear watchdog, they just announced a new secret facility. The alarm bells in Washington and other capitals were deafening. Which brings us right back to that night in June 2025. Diplomacy's dead. Iran's nuclear program is racing ahead. And the U.S. decides it's time to act. So let's go inside Operation Midnight Hammer. This was a complex, multi-layered attack, like a deadly symphony. First, you send in the stealth fighters, the F-22s and F-35s, to basically act as bait and light up Iran's air defense systems. Then come the B-2 bombers, dropping those massive bunker busters on the main targets. And finally, for cleanup, Tomahawk cruise missiles launched from a submarine would hit the secondary sites. So you might be wondering, why the need for such a gigantic bomb? Well, the main target, the Fordow enrichment facility, is buried 80 to 90 meters, that's almost the length of a football field, deep inside a mountain, under solid rock and concrete. And remember those 15 years of planning? This is wild. A top U.S. general later revealed that two officers had made this one target their entire life's work, starting back in 2009. He said they monitored every vent, every electrical system, every single thing going in or out. He said they literally dreamed about this target as they slept. I mean, can you imagine that level of obsession? But in the moments after the strike, it was pure chaos, the classic fog of war. You get these two completely different stories. A leaked intelligence report says the strike only set Iran's program back by a few months. The White House, though, goes public and claims the sites were severely damaged, delaying the program by 1 to 2 years. So, who's telling the truth? The strike's impact wasn't just physical. The political shockwaves hit immediately, fracturing old alliances and creating deep, deep divisions not just at home, but all around the world, as every nation was forced to pick a side. Now, this is really interesting. This poll shows American public opinion before the strike ever happened. The nation was totally ambivalent. Almost half the country was opposed to military action, but look at that huge 30% chunk in the middle. They were just unsure. There was absolutely no clear mandate for war. Of course, supporters of the strike, like House Speaker Mike Johnson, saw it as the necessary enforcement of a long-standing red line. For them, it was all about credibility and preventing a nuclear-armed Iran, period. But the criticism, wow, it came from some surprising places. This wasn't just the usual partisan divide. You had figures like Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, who you'd normally expect to support the administration, saying flatly, "This is not our fight." It just shows how much this one act scrambled the old political alliances. And the debate quickly morphed into something bigger than just Iran policy. It reignited this fundamental American argument over presidential power. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries accused the president of breaking the law by not getting approval from Congress. But Senator Lindsey Graham just brushed that aside, saying it was simply the right call. This brings us right to the core theme of this entire situation, the escalation spiral. It's this vicious cycle of attack and counterattack, a tit-for-tat dynamic, where each action, whether it's a drone strike, a sanction, or a bombing run, almost guarantees a reaction. And so we land on this fundamental question that goes way beyond just this one conflict. Operation Midnight Hammer, just like the Soleimani strike before it, was meant to eliminate a threat with overwhelming force. But the real issue, the reason this all matters, is whether actions like this actually work. Does this kind of military force solve the problem? Or does it just lock everyone into a new, more dangerous cycle of retaliation, creating a playbook that's going to be used again and again and again?